in conversation with some fascinating ladies who've changed the game in the world of video, music, and gaming. Only on Hungama's Women Game Changers podcast.
Hi, welcome to Hungama's celebration of the 50 Game Changers 2024. Over this season, you will get to know women who are chalking their own path and paving the way for the multitudes to follow in the field of entertainment across gaming, video, and music. I'm Raunaq from Hungama, and it is my pleasure to welcome the game changer Nyla Worker. She's product manager at Google focused on AI. Prior to this, she led product at Convai, where she built perceptual and conversational NPCs ready to act and tell a story. And this is after spending time in multiple roles at NVIDIA. Welcome, Nyla, and thank you for taking the time to share the knowledge and shorten the learning curve.
Thank you so much, Raunaq. I'm very excited to be here. It is a great honor, and I'm ready to share all of the insights, how I got here, how I think you can get here and get more people excited about this.
Actually, I'm so excited to have you because, there's gaming companies and then there's gaming companies. So tell us about getting in, getting accepted, and getting ahead while playing in the coolest toy stores in the gaming business.
Yeah, totally. So within Convai, we work with some of the incredible gaming brands, and we got to see what is the technology that goes behind the scenes of making an NPC. And that was very exciting. But how did I get here? So the path to here was not very straightforward. It started with my physics degree. With my physics degree, a curiosity and an understanding that AI was going to change things. So From that point on, I did some research, then moved to eBay where I did an internship. The way that I got the internship is quite interesting, so we could share that.
We would love to hear that story for the youngsters who are trying to figure out how they get their foot in the door.
Yeah, I think let's step back there for a quick second. So a little bit about the schooling. So how did I go from physics to AI? And I think this is an important story now, in particular, now that everyone has access to the internet, you have access to a phone connection and so on. So I did physics because it felt like a major that had great foundations. However, if I just had done physics, there's no way I would have gotten a job in AI. There's no way it could have transitioned to gaming or this path forward. Right. What I did is, in the meantime, I found extracurriculars, so outside of school opportunities that allowed me to test different careers out, like make a drone or go to do research. And in the process, I used a lot of education online.
Okay.
For example, I took Coursera courses, YouTube, MIT, and Stanford courses, and that was a solid foundation. But then from that point on, once you have the knowledge, you need to get internships, right?
Yes.
So with that comes networking. So I participated in Grace Hopper's conference, and I spoke about my experience and what I had done, and thankfully that's how I got an internship at eBay. But it had to be very proactive and search and targeted.
Tell me, so while you did your college education in physics, you were obviously curious and you were interested in exploring the world of CS at the same time. But what do you think are the inherent traits in your personality that made you a better fit for aspects that involved AI and that involved prompts that would work, and to then go on to build sort of more intuitive NPCs?
Yeah, so I think why I chose physics. So the reason I chose physics was because even though I love computer science, I love gaming, I love anime and things like that, I had noticed that computer science changes a lot. But physics is kind of a stable rock. Like if you see books from the 1900s, they still are pretty similar. I was like, well, clearly humans have derived knowledge from this for many centuries, so it seems to be like a solid foundation. But because I knew that it wasn't going to be my long-term career, I used it more as like a solid foundation than I used it as a as an actual path of study. And then with that, it's just being disciplined, right? And like understanding, okay, I'm doing this, but this is not where I want to get to. I want to get to set a target, right? So I want to get to one of the biggest tech companies in the world, or I want to work for the biggest creative studio in the world. So then you see what has gotten people there. You can investigate that. And then do the work that gets you there. So for example, one of my friends is an artist for one of the gaming studios. He kept creating 3D characters for many years on top of his mathematics degrees. Right. So the thing is, you keep doing the work on the side. And yes, it's going to be tiresome. It's going to require discipline. But you need to find that path yourself.
Okay. Tell us how NVIDIA happened and then what made you transition to Convai.
Yeah. So NVIDIA happened because I was working with them during my internship at eBay. So I found a couple of issues as well as really the speed up of the technology for leveraging AI. So at eBay, I was doing AI for image recommendations.
Right.
And I worked with them at eBay, and then I thankfully got an interview with them, and then I had to do the 7 rounds of interviews, and then I started all at NVIDIA. So then at NVIDIA, it was an incredible learning experience where I got to work on a rotational program. So the first 4 semesters, I was rotating from one program to another. And by the last one, so I really love robotics and I really love 3D content generation. Right. And I became a product manager at Omniverse for synthetic data generation, which was a way of creating 3D worlds, generating synthetic data, and training robots. But then I was talking with Purnendu, the CEO of Convai.
Yes.
And I was telling him, look, we're able to create these robots in simulations that are learning from these simulations and are performing really well. But seem to transferring to the real world is still a little hard, but it's getting there. And he was telling me, Nyla, you see how the characters are stiff sometimes in games, and now you're seeing that these synthetic robots that you're creating move so well, they react to situations, they can plan. Why don't we bring those to gaming? And we can use multimodality, and I had been working on perception and all of that to get these characters to see, react, and act and plan, as well as converse, right? So one piece of the character is just being able to have a fun conversation. But right. To be honest, in a game, it's very important to have a character that's reactive, right? That if you piss it off, it fights you back. It's not just
Yeah, exactly. Actually, I think for those of you who don't know what a non-playing character does, like the guy in Jumanji that asks the same question over and over again, that's a stiff NPC. And so what you were working on was creating reactive non-playing characters.
Exactly. That had reactions beyond just verbal, right? So, for example, one of my friends called me and he's like, Nyla, I hate the Harry Potter NPCs. And I was like, wait, why? He's like, I have looted them. And they are still, hello, how are you? How can I help you? So
that's such a real problem.
It is. And it's really tedious. So that's why I deeply believe in the technology of Convai. It's because it's gonna bring all of these characters to life, and it's gonna be perceptive, and it's gonna be able to verbally react to this. And for all of you who are listening and thinking, what is it that I can do now that I'm in school? And I think the best way to get started, specifically in gaming, if you want to build games, is to build a game. And if you're going to build a game, I would highly recommend trying these new AI tools. So with Convai, you just go to a website, convai.com, and then immediately you have access to creating a character and putting it into a video game in under half an hour, right? And I think here's where your creativity can really explode, because now you can create a personality, make them react, make them fight, put them in Unity or Unreal or any other kind of game engine. We support quite a few. So yeah, it is quite cool. And when you start building a game, you start studying how people react to your games. And that's how you truly gain enough experience to become a great game developer. The best game developers I've seen build games constantly.
Tell me, Nyla, you have since moved on and now you are working on products focused on AI at Google. How does the learning that you had at gaming scenarios like NVIDIA and Convai, how does that carry forward in your ability to build AI products at Google?
Yeah, the gaming industry, I think, is an industry everyone should learn from. It's an incredible industry in terms of just innovation. It moves really quickly in terms of creating new monetization structures, new ways of capturing the attention of users and all of that. So I think that has been definitely helpful into helping me think, okay, how do you build delightful experiences that incite a good response from a user? So that I would say was huge. On top of that, Convai is highly advanced as a startup in the end consumer use case. While at Google, I'm a little bit more behind the scenes. So it was a great learning experience from okay, what does the behind the scenes have to be in order for the end application to be perfect, right? So meaning a little bit of lag is not, actually, it might not look that bad to a research scientist. But when you're actually building a product that's going into a game, a little bit of lag is atrocious.
Oh, yes. I think there is no other industry, I suspect, that where lag is more decried as a major bug.
Yeah. I think that fierce expectation of the gamers is something that I keep in my mind all the time when building products.
Especially since I think in gaming, when a person identifies as a gamer and they are giving you the most valuable resource they have, which is time, then they want to know that you're valuing their time as well. And they don't want to sort of, be, even 1/8 of a second behind. So I think that's one of those things that's really important in the gaming space. Tell me, Nyla, when you were growing up, what kind of games did you play? And did you identify as a gamer while you were growing up?
So, interestingly, I did not identify as a gamer, even though I spent hours at a gaming cafe that had a Wii or had, I had my own, PlayStation 2 and so on. And, you mentioned this, I think, when we met. You were like, oh, women, even though they play, they don't identify as gamers. And I was like, you're correct. I never identified as a gamer, but I played so many hours of PlayStation 2. I played The Sims, which I'm very excited as to what AI is going to do to that. I really want to see the developed relationship.
So. I think, correct. I think you're going to be able to take the immersive in-game relationship to the next level, right?
Exactly. Now your Sims fight is not just going to be blah, 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 blah.
That's right. So despite all of this, gaming has been a bit of a male-dominated space. I think the numbers are changing now. When you attend GDC, it's a lot more women that you see than you did even 7-8 years ago. But what are the challenges that you faced as a woman, just in making sure that you've been heard?
Yeah, I'd say that gaming is definitely... so I went from primarily AI to gaming. And I have to say that there was a difference. I think AI has more women, given that there were a lot of women that were coming from neuroscience to AI. And on the other hand, in gaming, it was truly rare to see women. And I think that definitely needs to improve. I think it's a tougher industry for a female, but I think things are getting better, and it's gonna get better over the next couple of years. But I'm very glad that you're asking this question and promoting women, because it's a real issue, and it's more felt than in other tech communities that I've been part of.
You're talking from the other side of the table, somebody who's been part of the game developer community as well. But even when I talk to the gamer community, so many casual gamers or even serious gamers who are women will have decidedly androgynous names. Mystic Ignite is a great name, names that will not automatically identify their gender so that they don't get too much trash talk. So I think, it has been an issue. Although, given that you are very strong in the areas that you cover, do you still feel imposter syndrome?
I wouldn't say it's per se imposter syndrome, because I do think women have to work on, I think that I worked on for a lot of my career was actually validating my knowledge. And actually the way that I did this was by writing down every accomplishment I had, how I got there, why I did it, and why it was helpful. And that helped me move on from imposter syndrome. So that was one thing that I did, and I highly recommend everyone does it. This was advised to me by one of my mentors. And that helps you move on from imposter syndrome. But I would say that there are certain times where you're actually limited by the actual environment. And some women have put it out there that this is how they felt, that there are certain limitations by the environment because they lack other females to pave the way. So I would say that is something that I felt more, but the imposter syndrome is something that I worked very deeply on to get over with all of what I mentioned, which is write down all of your accomplishments, how you got there, why you got there, and why you're worthy of that space. And that helps you get over the imposter syndrome. But then there are other things where there were historically no women. So how do you get into this space? It's a little bit more complicated. And I just want to make people feel heard that this is really a limitation. You'll figure out a way. There is always ways of opening doors for yourself. And there are women like you that are opening doors for a lot of people. But there are certain walls that you'd face, and you just have to, and that's just the nature of having a space with very few women.
Yes, actually, one of the things that I think we spoke about when we met earlier as well was that women tend to, self-promote and network less than men. And, in the gaming space, knowing the right people, having the right people know of what you've done is really important, because it's a really it's not the largest group of people doing, especially at your level, exceptional things in path-breaking ways. How do you make sure that you are, not just in the right rooms, but also in the heads of the right people?
100%. So this is where it goes. First, you have to get over imposter syndrome. So for that recipe I gave to really understand how you are valuable is super important. And then when you're able to articulate how you're valuable, then you have to do self-promotion. And by the way, I have a very hard time with self-promotion because it feels a little bit like, oh, my achievements should show who I am, right? Yes. But no one is going and checking your achievements. You have to tell them about your achievements. People are not mean or evil. They are just lazy. And because they're not aware.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing is the unconscious bias, right? They've seen a lot of guys make something. So then they see a guy that sounds very similar to a guy who was very successful, and then they assume they'll be successful. But then there are so few women that they don't have that data set, right? They basically haven't been trained to see this sample perform in this way. So they don't have that ability to be like, oh, and it's not evil. This is just an unconscious bias, right? To be like, oh, yeah, this woman can do this or speaks about this. So because of that, you do need to show what you can do. And some people will be very pleasantly surprised. They'll be like, oh, wow, I haven't met someone like you in this space, but I'm very happy. And they'll be very nice to you. It was just because they didn't know. So that's where like the self-promotion is helpful, and you do need to find this. And how do you find the right rooms to do this? I think you just need to get yourself out there. If you know your things and you have things to show, you have to go to events. And many of the events are probably going to be useless. But for example, go to a networking dinner of gaming, go to meetups of your favorite podcasts, your favorite video games, and all of these things. You just have to show up. And I do think in person or virtually, either way is fine. But you just have to be there and make your name in that space.
Yes.
And then slowly get to know the people that matter. And this is what earlier I said, while you're building your career, identify who you want to be or someone who you admire, and try to copy their career or like see what spaces they hang out in, and try to go into those spaces and identify what are the key people in that space that you need to know, such that you can learn from them. Because a lot of the knowledge is behind the curtains. It's not so much outside. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I also think that, if taking on from what you said, if you can identify someone whose career you'd love to, follow or, map to some extent, ask for help. Incredible thing that I have learned is that if you will ask for help, most people will help you. They'll give you those 10 minutes. They'll respond to a DM on Instagram. They will answer your question on LinkedIn. They'll accept your connect. And that's just part of the process. So I think, as a shout out to the allies, I'd love for you to tell us about, people who mentored you, who gave you the confidence and helped you climb the ladder.
100%. And to that point, just for context, I message hundreds of people on LinkedIn, like hundreds of people in the past for different things. And I have to say, I've been incredibly surprised by how willing people are to help.
Yes.
And by the way, just do that. I've gotten into calls with random people on LinkedIn who are like, I need help with this. People want to help. Most people are very generous with their time when they can. Obviously, not everyone can, but just shoot your shot. And then another important tangent from this is, if people don't know what you want, how can they give it to you?
Yes. Well put.
So that is super important to state what you need. So for example, you want, maybe there was a case of a woman who wanted to move to Singapore, and the job opening opened in Singapore, but she hadn't mentioned that. And then the boss gave it to someone else because he assumed that she wouldn't want to move her family.
Right.
So it's important to state your preferences, and how, people might not be able to give it to you, but at least they'll keep you in the back of their mind if something like that opens up.
Line I say so often to the youngsters I meet is, only crying babies get fed. Somebody has to know.
Yes.
That's
100%.
Absolutely the truth. Tell me, Nyla, when you allow yourself to manifest and visualize your personal growth, or has most of it just happened to you?
No, I definitely take a step back at every couple of years. And I'm a very big believer in vision boards. When I was 15, I was in Bolivia. So Bolivia is a very poor country. I very rarely traveled outside of Bolivia. And in that vision board, I went wild. I was like, I have flight tickets to every country in the world. I have the best schools in the US on it. I have big tech corporations. And you don't understand how ridiculous that is, from a room in Bolivia. It's so out of scope, right? All of these things that I'm putting into this vision board. And all of it came true.
All of it. I was just thinking about it. The best tech, biggest tech companies, great schools, all of it.
Yeah, but it was, and I think it's because I would go and see it every day and be like, what have I done to get there? Like, am I still in the right track? And there were many days where it was like a lot of studying and like not going to school, not going to meet with friends, and just studying and studying and studying for the SAT. Or like the other thing is it helped me search, right? How do I get into the universities in the US? And then I was like, oh my God, I have to take SAT 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I have to take the TOEFL. I have to do this. And it helped me time it out. Because a lot of these things are doable, but it takes 3 years to get there.
Right.
And that's why I'm a strong believer in a vision board where you put crazy things on and then let time take its time, right? It took 10 years for that to happen. But it's good to have your crazy dreams in some kind of board and then make sure every day you're doing something on that direction.
I think that's actually... That's really a great way for us to do a slight segue. Nyla, one of the things that we do in these conversations is every person that we celebrate gets to nominate 2 women for next year's list. So if you have names right now, you can share them with us. Otherwise, over the next couple of weeks, if you can send us an email with 2 women that you recommend who are doing things differently and doing different things in the space of gaming, film, or music, we'd love for you to share their names with us so we can amplify them.
Amazing. I will send an email with those names. I'm deciding who to send still. I will do that.
Tell me, one of the things, Nyla, is that, people see the wins, they see your posts, they see everybody's posts on LinkedIn, and they see their stories on Insta, and they think it makes it look easy. But what they don't see is the sweat and the long nights and the struggle, right? So tell us some of the incidents that make it feel like the struggle is worth it, and tell us something about the discipline to get to where you've gotten.
Yeah, so I speak in particular about my research experience in undergraduate at the University of Minnesota. When I got to the University of Minnesota, I got dropped into this distributed machine learning project, which is pretty crazy to be dropped into from a physics degree. I'd only taken AI courses online. Of course, I had a mathematical background from physics, like linear algebra, differential equations, and things like that. But I had very weak, no distributed computed knowledge or anything like that. So I spent that whole summer, because it was given to me as a task, I assume it was very doable by me. And I felt like if I wasn't able to do it, I was an idiot. So I spent every day, watching YouTube tutorials on Hadoop or absolutely everything I could on distributed computing and TensorFlow and CPU clusters, because I had no idea what a cluster even was.
Right.
And at the end of the summer, I got a poster that I'm pretty proud of, which was showing what happens to the quality of a deep neural network when it's distributed across various CPUs, either model parallelism or data parallelism, and things like that. But it was an awful experience. It was so bad, not only because it was completely outside of the realm of my knowledge, but on top of that, I was alone in a research lab with no windows for 3 months.
Oh my God. Through the summer?
All through the summer. No windows.
Oh my God. And a lot of the campus is empty.
Yeah, it was awful.
Yeah, I can imagine. But you know what? These things only make you stronger, right?
Yeah, and after that, I even swore off computer science. I was like, I'm not built for this. But thankfully, and this goes to these programs to empower female, I got a scholarship to go to Grace Hopper that year. And I was like, okay, I'll go. But I had been so disheartened by that learning journey that I was like, oh, okay. Then I got to Grace Hopper and it's very positive and I get an internship and that's what gets me back on track.
Right.
And to this day, I'm extremely thankful. That knowledge, those 3 months of hell, is still the baseline knowledge that I use every day for my job. So I have to say, sometimes like these learning journeys are not pleasant, are really not pleasant. And there is no way of escaping that unpleasantness. You just have to get over it. Like Jensen, the CEO of NVIDIA, said, I wish you suffer. I think he said in one of the interviews.
Yes.
And it's true. I mean, there is no shortcutting that suffering to get far in life, even when it's very painful.
Yeah, and I think it teaches you grit. The ability to keep going, to go despite everything, because we all need a little bit of grit at different points in our lives. Tell me, Nyla, one of the things that we'd love to hear from you is, how do you see AI unraveling over the next 5 years in terms of just as a career, but also in our lives?
Yeah. Let's just start with our lives. Career we can start in a little bit, but I think we're gonna see a transition on the way we interface with computers altogether. So I don't know if the phone will even be around in like 10 years. I've been playing with these voice interfaces, obviously at Convai. And I was thinking, like, one of the big reasons I felt like these humanoid characters were so incredible is because I learned a lot of my physics knowledge through having conversations with my physics professors on a walk. Because that kind of learning that you get while conversing and having an active debate is super powerful. And I don't think people have access to these kind of professors all the time in their life. But now you do with these AI conversational bots. We had the Convai characters, but we also have voice mode from OpenAI. We have Notebook LM from Google. All of these things are allowing you to have a completely new journey for like absorbing information, conversing with technology. And soon, like, they are going to start acting for you. You're going to say, book me a flight with these preferences, and it will do it. And you are even going to tell it, can you make a website for me? And it could make a website if you wanted to. So I think we are going to see a complete change in the way that we interface with computers altogether. And I think that's very exciting.
I think it's already shifting. I think I see a lot more people opting for voice over text. I remember about 3 years back, my daughter was writing an essay for something. And it was what voice is going to do. And one of the things that she said was that it will transcend the language barrier. You can be sitting in the same room, four people can be sitting over there speaking in their native language, and it'll be a fluent conversation because you will constantly be getting it real-time translated. And I remember thinking when she wrote it, maybe in another 15, 20 years it'll happen. And now I'm sitting over here thinking, oh my God, it's 3 years and it's happening.
Yeah.
It's really accelerated the rate of, transcending. And for India, I think it's an extremely exciting thing because voice also allows us to transcend a literacy or an English barrier that otherwise has existed. Right?
100%. It's terribly exciting for all countries. Like in Bolivia, we don't have that much English. We also have some literacy problems, and it's going to be huge education-wise, like a whole new level of access to knowledge. That's more customized, right? Because sometimes you get it online and you go to an online course, but it has so much background knowledge that was required for it. And sadly, the education, at least in Bolivia, wasn't that good. So how are you even going to get to the base layer of the course? But now with this personalized on your language AI tutors, you get there. It's unbelievable.
I didn't understand this. Can you explain this to me so that I can understand it? Assume I know nothing about this area. And then it breaks it down for you in those ways.
And it's not going to be like my math professor who screamed and was like, isn't it obvious? The AI had more patience than you, I'm just saying.
Yes. And it's very polite. When you say thank you, it always says welcome. Anyway, Nyla, really, It's been lovely chatting with you, and thank you so much for joining us today. I think the most interesting thing about chatting with you is that you constantly seem fascinated by what you're surrounded with, and that enthusiasm is contagious. And I think the key to that is that Nyla knows what she is doing to get where she wants.
Just create a vision board. I 100% recommend.
I think that has to be the tip that goes along with this interview when it goes out. It was lovely talking to you, Nyla, and learning from you. And congratulations to the many mountains you will still climb.
Awesome. Have a wonderful day. Take care.
Thank you so much, Nyla.
This is Raunaq from Hungama. Thank you for tuning in, and stay with us as we meet more women in entertainment who aren't just playing the game, they're changing it.
In conversation with some fascinating ladies who've changed the game in the world of video, music, and gaming. Only on Hungama's Women Game Changers podcast.